Everybody, Steve Brzezbrowski. Welcome to episode 54 in the series 101 Tips to Ace Your Promotional Exam. As a reminder, my website, code3firetraining.com, is a free stuff link with lots of great information on there for all ranks of personnel, regardless of where you're at around the world for that matter. So good stuff. And this series is based on my 101 Tips to Ace Your Promotional Exam book, available on the fireandtrainingbooks.com website. My sincerest thanks to them for publishing it and having faith in me. Looking forward to hopefully a couple more leadership books in the future if all goes well. All right. You've heard me mention, and I'm hoping it's not just me, you've hopefully heard this term beforehand, but if not, you're hearing it for the first time, and it's a term that really affects all ranks of firefighters, from fire chief down to firefighter. So you've probably heard me say, if you've watched any of the previous ones, about the term SWOT or SWOC. They both are unique, and I'll talk about both of them again because I think they're very important tools and resources to use when you analyze things, do your research, do your homework on whatever it is, researching the department you're applying for, the position you're applying for, whether it's another department or even your own department. There's benefits to knowing basically the SWOT of the SWOC, the strengths, the weaknesses, the opportunities, and then either threats or challenges of your own, of your fire department for that matter. So as I've touched on, SWOT or SWOC is a very valuable tool, sort of like a pros and cons worksheet. I mean, I know one of the best resources that was ever shared with me years ago when I was preparing to become a firefighter. All of our situations are different. For those of you that are already on the job, that have been on the job, I remember when I was starting my pursuit of becoming a firefighter 30 plus years ago, I remember hearing from some of the firefighters out there that, hey, just keep on testing and your chance will come. And, when your time comes, you'll probably get multiple job offers. And it's hard to imagine when you want the position to have multiple job offers. You're hoping for one. And I remember that happened, Santa Clara County Fire, my current employer, offered me a job along with the city of Clovis, California. Both offered me jobs simultaneously. It was one of those things of going, wow. I mean, here I am. I had taken, 4.5 years of testing. And in that process, probably took about, 50 plus tests of fire departments to become an entry-level firefighter back in the early 90s. And it seems like when it rains, it pours. And I know one of the best pieces of advice, because I had Clovis and Santa Clara County, both job offers and both great departments still to this day. And I would have been very happy at Clovis, just like I was at Santa Clara County Fire. But I remember retired Captain Mike Gill out of Fresno Fire, who was a mentor of mine. When I was debating between the two, he's like, follow your heart, obviously, but he goes, do a pros and cons worksheet. Pros and cons, sort of strengths and weaknesses, sort of the same concept. And even to this day, a pros and cons worksheet, or SWOT, is a great resource to use when you're doing your homework and research, because it really helps you decide one way or another of, what, this is worth going for, or it's not just worth going for, but if I go for it and I get it, here's what the issues are going to be. And again, every position, every department, every organization has issues, has challenges, has threats, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities. The grass isn't always greener on the other side. Trust me, we all have issues. But the key is you going in, eyes wide open, head on a swivel to any position you're going for, just to make sure you know what you're getting into. Again, there's no perfect place out there, but you got to go in looking straight ahead at what you're getting into. So it's critical, I think, to do your homework, and doing, this type of analysis, SWOT or SWOC, is very appropriate to any position. I ensure it's a living document. When I say living document, I'm going to date myself and sound very old here. When I was growing up, kids, we didn't have computers, and bear with me here. So old school pen and paper was what we did, or notebooks. Not to say those things aren't still valuable. They are. Every one of us tracks things differently and everything else. But the benefit now of computers, obviously, is something like a Word document, if it's a computer, or if it's, your smartphone, your iPad, whatever type of note function, note-taking capability you have, just to make sure it's a living document so you can add to it as time goes by, because you're always going to be adding things, maybe deleting, modifying things, and everything else. Identify how each of those may impact you and how you may affect each. When I say impact you, every position, every station assignment, every rank, every department, every organization, like I mentioned, has strengths, has weaknesses, has opportunities, has threats and challenges. Your key when you're going into a position, especially a promotional process, but more importantly, the position, is take a look at each of these, write them out. And sometimes the homework is already done for you because a lot of departments do what's known as an annual strategic plan. Strategic planning is a great process that not every department takes advantage of. Sadly, a lot of departments do a strategic plan and it's like a 5-year plan and it sits on the shelf, or it's a document that is on the computer that nobody ever looks at, or never, more importantly, ever updates. That's the key. Is you can have all the paper and policies, procedures, documents that makes your department look great on paper, but if you're not updating them, they ain't worth shit. So key for you is obviously taking a look at each of those items, obviously adding to it yourself, and then finding out how can each of these impact me, because some of them may be major impacts. I'll use an example. A friend of mine was applying for another fire department. He was looking for a fire chief's position. And he's like, hey, I'm thinking about applying for this department's fire chief position. And then when I was, just for kicks and giggles, we were talking about everything else, I happened to go to the department's website and I saw they had a strategic plan. And one of the items from the strategic plan, which is maybe a year or two old, but still relevant, I would hope, was one of the things that department was looking at was consolidation with another department. And I told him point blank, I go, hey, did you read the strategic plan yet? And he's like, well, not really. I didn't really look through it. I have it, but I haven't looked at it. I go, did you notice that one of the opportunities that they have listed in their SWOT analysis was consolidation with another department? He's like, huh? I go, so if you're going in to apply for a fire chief's position at a department that's looking at consolidating with another department next door, that's like 3 times your size. If you're the fire chief today, you're probably not going to be the fire chief tomorrow. You may, every department does it differently when they merge and they consolidate, but there can only be one chief. And there's a reason why departments do consolidations. I'm from a department that has done a lot of consolidations, contracts for services, because there's benefits, I think, to the membership, less redundancy. If you got 3 organizations that are very small in nature, why do you need 3 fire chiefs? Nothing personal. 3 training officers, 3 fire marshals. You still need X amount of people at the firehouses to run the calls. I get it. But you may not need as many administrative folks at the top. It may be a good example or a good opportunity to consolidate some of that. But anyway, he's looking at going into a fire chief's position. I go, you're going into a fire chief's position that you may not even have a job in 2 or 3 years based on how the consolidation goes. Now, what happens in a lot of departments I've seen is that if the chief is not eligible for retirement, they'll either be told, hey, you better start looking for another job because you ain't going to have one, or hey, we'll bring into the new organization like your members, your firefighters, captains, battalion chiefs, but you ain't going in as fire chief because we already got one. You can come in maybe as a battalion chief or a deputy chief if there's a vacancy or a planned vacancy. Now, some members have done that where they, hey, you know what, I was a fire chief for a 1-station department, and you know what, I can come in and be a battalion chief or a division or deputy chief at a 50-station department with less headaches and stress. Maybe, maybe not. Still headaches and stress in every department. Shit, sign me up for that one. So every position's different, but again, know what you're getting into before you get there. I'm not saying don't take a position in your department, but if you're looking for outside your department for position, always have a backup plan and realize that, what you go in, because the last thing you want to do is go in and you don't want to be that new fire chief coming in that basically is against consolidation, especially if their strategic plan was stating that the union membership, which usually consolidation is most successful when it's brought up from the boots on the ground, the union folks, those that are represented by the union, because, a chief can tout, most chiefs aren't going to tout consolidation because again, they may be out of a job, but a lot of times, or most of the time, most successful contracts consolidations are really brought upon by the union, because the union is there saying, you know what, we can have, we're more stronger, more powerful, and you know what, let's join forces with another department or pool our efforts or whatever it is. But anyway, you just got to know what you're getting into so you don't find yourself out of a job, especially if you just came from a decent job, or maybe it was a shitty job that you had, but at least it was a job that paid the bills. Something to think about. But anyway, think about that. If you don't know your department or the department you're planning on working for because you're applying for, how do you expect to be able to be a champion of it? And when I say champion of it, obviously, when you get into that promotional process, the oral interview, you better be a champion of that department, that position, that organization, your current one, or whatever one you're applying for. More importantly, when you get that position, should you get it, you got to be a champion of it. Take ownership, have pride in it, and sell it. You know, treat it like it's your own, as you should. So, also, how do you expect to assist new and current personnel as well as the public with improving their knowledge about the department itself? That's why SWOT or SWOC and or both are great resources to know as much as you can about your organization, so you can actually say it convincingly that you know what the hell you're talking about. People will probably buy into that a little better too than just you, well, I don't know, I didn't take the time to do that. Well, no shit, Sherlock. Hey, anyway, as always, thank you very much for the gift of your time. Until the next episode, be safe, take care, and we will see you all soon. Have a great day, everybody.